Hey everybody, my name's Ansleigh. I'm the youth minister here at St. Margaret's. We miss you guys, and we know a lot of you are stuck at home, which can be kind of crazy, but the good thing about our Catholic faith is it's super easy to incorporate it into our home and to make a little church out of our home. So I have with me Trisha Slade, who is a parishioner here, who has a beautiful home, who's going to share a little bit about some tips to make our home more holy and maybe not go super crazy during these next however many days.
Well, one thing is when creating my home, one thing I wanted to do was not just take the beauty of my church on that Sunday Mass. I wanted to be able to go home to a place that expanded. And one thing I made sure that in my actual decor was, how Catholic was it? And how much the little things here and there could add up to be visual reminders. I'm a tactile person. One thing is in looking at that, we are very sensual. In other words, our five senses actually tell us our input on most things and how we can interpret reality. Well, if you look at the sacraments themselves, they are visible things of an invisible reality. So in doing that, I thought, well, my home needs to be these visual reminders of this incredible, beautiful gift that God's given us. And that I can take what is in the home of the church and bring it into my home. Because what do they say at the end of Mass? Go forth. The Mass is ended. So going forth, that means I need to bring home the liturgy. So in doing so, you'll see the entrance of my home, back door. I make it special too. You'll see Mary and Jesus both greet us. And you'll open up and you'll see a sign that says this is a Catholic home. And it was kind of pretty because as I'm going through and I'm going, okay, I'm asked to do this kind of fly of the moment, I never really realized how much my home, I actually put so much thought into the embodiment of making sure that each family member got a piece of a visual reality of God. And the beauty of it is I even noticed, even the statue, before you even enter my home, there's Jesus in the garden. And when we first brought him home, I caught my son talking to him. And it was probably one of the most incredible moments. Here he was having a conversation with Jesus as he's in the garden. So, yes, your home can actually bring forth some beautiful things in raising your family. So, further on, I'm just going to show you a little tips and tricks and some things that I have done that allow my children to feel the faith. And hopefully that maybe will be, a little spark, a little joy in your life right now in midst of this darkness. Let's start me in the light.
Okay. And some of these things might be hard to purchase right now, but you can make them or be creative. So right. We're all about using things you have.
Absolutely. All right. Well, one of the things is I wanted my kids to pray at the table. Dinner time to me is one of the most joyful, beautiful moments. We come to the church, and it shouldn't be less significant about the fact that in the Eucharist, what are we doing? Coming to the table. So our family meal together should also be very symbolic of what we're doing within the church as well. So I have a few things. This sits on my dining room table. It's always there. My kids know about it. And I said, well, how do I make a bunch of hungry children who are ready to devour their plates down stop and think about the blessing? Well, I found these little nifty little things online. The little prayers. And it made it fun for them that, hey, it was a race to see who could pick up the square and roll it to decide who gets to say the prayer. Now, granted, the beauty of this is it was just the beginning of the fruits that were to bear from how my children were going to start responding. So here at the table, now we no longer even pick these up. They're there. But my children, each one will tell one another, wait, we got to say the blessing, and I'm going to say the blessing. So we have a lot of spontaneous, fun blessings at the table.
Imogene.
Imogene, it has erupted in a few fights, especially if she doesn't get to finish the blessing. She likes to control things, but that's a 5-year-old. But it's meaningful about the fact that my children take a whole lot of pride, but a whole lot of humility in just thanking God right there before the meal. And believe me, they're quick to correct anyone and everyone they see not partaking in the blessing. So while I just started with some cubes, I find that if you make prayer life not something of a chore, but something of perhaps like fun, in a sense, I find that kids kind of respond to that in a very positive way.
What's a way we can, I'm just going to jump in here as an interviewer, what's a way someone can makeshift that, like make a little cube?
Sure. I actually thought about this. You know the game when you were a kid where you would take the piece of paper and you would fold it and you would do bop, 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 bop.
Yeah.
Can y'all remember the name of that?
It's the...
I don't remember.
I forgot what it's called, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can label numbers and colors, and you can actually have the kids make it together. And then after you flip up and fold, you could have, now granted, it's going to be small space, so you might have to put like a number to like a list of prayers to the side.
Yeah.
But then it would just be kind of like a, hey, and the kids would be both interacting with one another. So that was just something that actually came to me yesterday. I didn't have time, unfortunately, to put together a presentation. But absolutely, there's so many ways that you can make it into something exciting for them. Small children respond really well to an excitement of the mystery. And I really think that game as a child that we did is a little bit of a mystery, right? Because we never know what you're going to get inside that little fold of that paper.
Mm-hmm.
But think about the mystery of unfolding a prayer. Sometimes we don't think of the little things like that, but when you kind of turn it around on its head, it certainly fits. So, on to other aspects of family life. In my home, I like to, prayers needs to be visual. I can say this first and foremost. What I have noticed about what children respond to the most is seeing you physically pray. It says a lot. And there's times where, on a bad day, that I've allowed my kids to actually see me on my knees. And they ask questions. They'll say, is something wrong? Well, no, I need this prayer. And why do we go to our knees? First off, we got to kind of think about that.
Yeah.
We go to church and we're really good about, certain prayers, or when we first enter, we go straight to our knees, right? And we have this reverence within the church. And granted, yes, the body of Christ is present. So our reverence and our love needs to be shown. The genuine-flecked. Why do we do that? Unfortunately, most kids, when I've asked them, when I'm teaching PSR, they don't even know why we genuine-flecked. I had to say, you're in the presence of Christ. That's, So in the home, right now, we don't have that physical Eucharist to adore. But there's something that about the embodiment of, doesn't mean that God's not present, okay? And And I think we forget that. And I think we forget that a lot, unfortunately. That's why I created my home in such a way that I could no, God is here. God's here in the little things. My favorite moment was a day I was sitting outside and the birds were chirping. And here's my kids come running up and they were being loud. I said, shh, shh. And they said, what, Mom? I said, listen. And they said, to what? I mean, these are kids, right? I said, listen to the birds. And they said, so then they started making bird noises. You gotta love the teenagers. You gotta love the small children. And then they started squawking. And I'm like, y'all are missing the biggest point ever. What got beautiful was I got to bring that forth on what I was actually doing when we started talking about Lent. I said, guys, I want y'all to add to. I really want you to add to your spiritual life. And these are some ways to do it. And the first thing I told them was silence. You know, here the coronavirus hits, and we're told to all go to our homes, hunker down, and quarantine. And for me, the biggest piece of scripture that has popped out is Jesus in the 40 days. There's something to be said for that pause. Sometimes we're so busy just going on the go, I gotta get this done, that done. We forget about that pause. And sometimes it's now time, it's the best time right now, is for us to start pausing. So how do I pause? My front porch is amazing. I got every bird you could possibly think of. So get your bird seat. Bring forth the birds. Talk to God and thank God about the beauty of the birds. There's something incredible to discover about God and His creation. One of my favorite prayer moments was when I had 2 blue jays flying, and they were just going after one another. And I was drinking my cup of coffee and just thanking God for His creation in that moment, and just how incredible and beautiful every little creature He has. And they all of a sudden flew right into my face, and I could feel the flutter of their wings. And I said, okay, you just spoke. I'm listening. So in the silence sometimes, I think that we need to remember God speaks to us when we shut up. My kids probably don't like to hear that too much, but sometimes we just really need to zip it and let Him speak for Himself. So meditation is one way that I actually ask my children to observe, and I observe myself. Of course, right now I don't have adoration, so that silence is a little more difficult, but I think early morning hours, typically for me, might be different for you. Also, for those who may say, I don't have a backyard but pretty birds. Well, guess what? You have a gorgeous window. I have at times even spent just sitting at a window and watching a spider on his web. There's some amazing things that a spider can do on his web. And some amazing things that makes me see God in that. So I think it takes time for you to sit back and reflect on Him and His beauty.
Ansleigh, I have a question.
Yeah.
What do you think a couple of biggest obstacles for maybe older kids that get in the way of silence, and maybe how do we limit that?
How much time do we have? So many. I mean, just thinking about myself, there's so many obstacles, some even good things that can be overused or something like that. The first thing that comes to mind, just because I had just looked into this, is actually pornography. Pornography has gone up drastically since since all of us having to be quarantined. So I know the devil does work in these ways and tempts us in these ways, but I think also like the need to like, I have like fear of missing out. So I'm always like, I need to check my social media and see what's happening, which nothing's really happening, but I still have that need to like go to my social media just to like make sure nothing's happening, you know? So social media is another one. Also just like, I mean, I'm an introvert, but like, I don't know, having that time to meditate is hard because my brain's always thinking of 1,000 other things. And I think I miss my high schoolers a lot, and I wish, you know, we could get together more, but I think that's also some other struggles, especially for seniors or even the other high schoolers missing this time, missing prom, and all these things that are really important. I know those are hard too. So, and like Trisha was saying with meditating, especially for parents, if you are in a crazy house with a lot of kiddos being loud, you can always sneak to the church. The church is open from 9 to 4, the Tuesday through Sunday for private prayer. So if you want to come and say a prayer, the church is open and meant to be a place so you can meditate. So you just have to sit apart, at least 6 feet apart from
well, one thing that can be incredible, beautiful, that I've witnessed that you've done for the teenagers, because they're used to music. So I've seen you play music for them and make them meditate on that music. So I think that's even something that you could do, you know, even put on the Gregorian chant, but I mean, teenagers probably not going to go for that.
I don't know. Some might.
Some might?
Yeah.
Hey.
Or even just like think like, I love music too. I don't listen to all Christian music, but I do like to throw in some worship songs. So even if you could, you know, once a day have one worship song that you pray with, I mean, that would even be a good practice to have. So
not only do we have meditation, but I do have some things that I do want to cover. Right now, right here, what we have is called the oratory. Believe it or not, it's in the catechism, where the church actually advises that we make special places of prayer. And this is what I'm talking about visually. Here we have, I have it set up and demonstrated, where it typically involves a piece of linen. You can change out the linen with colors. Involves the crucifix. It should be a crucifix and not a cross. The reason why is because your meditation is going to rely on the actual suffering of Christ. In addition, I have, you're going to have Mary to the left, and you would typically have Jesus to the right. You want to see the glorified Jesus. Because this tapestry I have here doesn't necessarily exemplify the glorified Jesus, I've also included the Divine Mercy. So, and that right there, it's a visual cue of what are you about to come forward and think about in prayer. In addition, you could do a candle. We have flowers. Flowers are always good for an adornment. I actually had my children pick this out from a field in a ditch. They had a blast. And to sit there and know what this is for opens up the doors for a conversation with them. So you just got to get creative. So, and I threw this together last minute. You know, a prayer box is always essential. I find that I like to keep my prayer cards, my rosary. I even keep slips of paper. There's those times where a spontaneous prayer will come across and I'll write it down, jot it down, and throw it in the box. And I can revisit that prayer too. You know, especially when it's something very hard on my mind. In addition, I have a great book resource that I keep this in the living room, is Catholic Household Blessings and Prayers. It covers it all. You will see the you can even go through the Lenten season. You can go through what's about to come up, the Easter season. As you see, it will give you all the prayers that you can possibly think of, even in the time of, let's say you want a prayer for a loved one who is sick. It provides prayers for the sick as well. So this is something that is at hands, beautiful, that you can do with the family. I keep it in my living room for that case. So in addition, I also like what I have discovered. It's called the little oratory. As a Catholic mom, I really wanted to make my home a Catholic one. And this kind of gives you an ideas, tips, tricks on how to go and develop that. And what I loved about it was it started with things like that you would never even think of, but simplicity. I think sometimes that we really need simplicity. So I've gone in, my home is organized. I know we pick on Father Jamin about his OCD nature. There's a little something to that, honestly. Because the more chaos you have, if you have laundry everywhere and you got stuff thrown everywhere, where's the beauty? Where's the calm? Where's the peace? So right now is a great time. Clean out your closet. Highly recommend it. This book would recommend it. There's another book that is useful. I have a little bit of criticism on it, but Butler's Saint for the Day. So we all want to learn about new saints. What's awesome about this book was you get a saint for the day. And typically it is in line with feast days as well. They will choose that particular saint. My criticism is it gets it's too much of a biography. The one thing that I like to challenge, even with my students, is let's not just look at the saint as the day they were born, where they grew up. I'm more interested in the internal and the external ways they showed their holiness. So this book kind of it glosses over it. So what I would recommend would be look up the saint of the day and then find the challenge of looking to find how did they internally and externally show their holiness. So
yeah, and I have some books here too. The first one is called Catholic All Year. So it's liturgical living for real life, emphasis on real life, because some of these ideas are awesome, but it can be kind of hard. And if you're a perfectionist like me, I'm like, I want to do it all. I want to do it 150%. But this goes through the liturgical year and gives practical ways that you can make your home liturgical, which is really beautiful. The second is called Theology of the Home. So there's some really beautiful images of some different ways that you can make your home reflect the glory of God. And it's only little short passages, but it's really beautiful. The third is more geared towards children. It's my Catholic Picture Bible, which is how I know most of my Bible stories. And I know if you have young kids, you probably have a lot of other good Christian books, but just having like a Catholic Bible with pictures in it for your kids, at least for me growing up, that was my favorite because I'm very visual. And the last thing, this one's just a book of holy cards. So talking about if you want to introduce new saints to your kids, showing them pictures of the saints is really helpful. And maybe why they're holding a spear or flowers or whatever it might be. And then over here, the other thing I have this is a picture of St. Albert's. It's where my parents got married and where me and my sister were baptized. And it was a gift to my family, but now when people come over, they say, why do you have a picture of St. Albert's? And we get to share a little bit about that. So my parents have always made it a point to celebrate our baptismal days and celebrate our anniversaries and all the great things God has given us, because during this time, I think even for us, it's so easy to fall into despair, and that's what the devil wants, of course. So my family's just trying to, pick out the positives, maybe even with your kids, put pictures of things that you're grateful for, or write down things you're grateful for on your fridge, whatever it might be, just to remind us that God is with us and there are good things amidst this storm.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah. Anything else, Trisha?
Just thank you for listening, and I just want to say that hope each and one of us do actually take this time for pause and strengthen. Now's the time for strengthening our spiritual life. We're given an opportunity. It might be a difficult time. Remember the 40 days of the desert. Something to reflect on. But right now, more than ever, is the time we really need to strengthen ourselves. And so prayer in the home matters.
Yeah. But thank you for watching. I'm Ansleigh. This is Trisha. We're praying for you. Our staff is thinking of you. The last thing I'll say is Our fathers, Father Jamin and Father Rad, are here with our deacons and trying to give you resources that you can use in praying for you and thinking of you. And if you and your kids want any craft, if you guys want to actually write a letter or a card for our wonderful priests who are here, you can send it to our mailbox, which is P.O. Box 100 in Albany, or I don't know, even send pictures of it if that's too hard.
Oh, yeah.
Anything to just show that you guys are alive, because we're alive and we're so thankful.
Email works too. Take a picture of it and send it to the email.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll enjoy that in their inbox.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye.